All right, y'all. Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of hashtag CB99 Talks. This is episode 83. Of course, I'm Combo Breaker 99. Welcome back, y'all. Feels like it's been a minute. It's been about 2 weeks, I think, since the last episode. I've been busy doing my thing, grinding. Of course, I've been on the channel still, but I just been away from I just got away from doing episodes of this show because like I said, just been busy. Too busy to sit down and actually just discuss the topics that I've been lining up for this episode, and they've been piling up. So I might just have to break this episode up into two parts or, just make it on another episode, basically, right? So, yeah, man, we back in here with another episode. Got some good combat sports conversation for y'all today. And, yeah, man, it's just been a good weekend. It's been kind of warm this weekend as well. The previous weekend, we had some good fights. I want to go back and discuss, just some things with particular fighters from the previous week as well. So, yeah, man, first up, for this episode, I want to go back to ONE FC Bad Blood and just kind of talk about the WMMA fights on that card and just judging as a whole, because I had a few people ask me about scoring and ONE FC and just scoring as a whole in the fight game. So I'll be brief on that, kind of give y'all my thoughts again, because that's just an ongoing discussion. That's an ongoing discussion we always got to kind of go into, right? So let's talk about ONE FC a little bit. Casey O'Neill dominating Roxanne, well, not dominating, but beating Roxanne Matafari the previous weekend. I want to talk about the scoring just a little bit in that one because that was another fight that was badly scored. And just what's next for Casey O'Neill. She talked about a few things post-fight with Ariel Helwani that I want to discuss here. What else do we want to talk about today? Jessica Andrade. Let's talk about Jessica Andrade a little bit and some of her recent moves she's been making. I ain't talking about Amanda Lemos either. We ain't going to discuss the Amanda Lemos fight. We talking about something else. Yeah, it still has something to do with the fight game. It does. So I'm gonna say that y'all know what I'm talking about. We're gonna go in on that just a little bit. Chris Cyborg. Two more fights on the contract. What's really next for her? Does the Kat Zingano fight really hold that much weight that it's been causing this big ruckus? Is it really like this bubbling rivalry that we're all looking forward to? Is it really like a legacy fight? What do y'all think? Let's talk about that. And Joanna. Joanna feeling like she missed out on some fighter pay. Some good fight pay. I want to talk about that just a little bit, kind of give you my thoughts. And if I have some time here, Pena weighing in on the ATT drama that pushed Nunes away. That could have been a very much possibility, right? Because Nunes says one thing, but something else could be hidden in there. You know what I mean? Like Nunes says one thing, ATT's situations might not just be fitting for right now. So, Pena from the outside looking in kind of gave her a take on that. So yeah, let's talk about it, y'all. But let's backtrack here. First off, man, this previous weekend was pretty good weekend of fights. Had a Saturday off, just chilling and doing some things, going out, drinking and everything. Eating. Well, not drinking, but just going out, but hanging out. But I still got a chance to watch some of the fights. Bellator. Forgot there was a Bellator card. At the last minute, had to pull that up. And shout out to Juliana Pena. She got a win over Justine Quiche, who was making her UFC Bellator debut. Juliana Pena's been that sneaky contender as of this moment. She's just been kind of on the rise, slowly coming up. A lot of people kind of overlook her, but she's been improving as a fighter. So shout out to Juliana Pena. She got a win this weekend. Shout out to Stephanie Edgar, first person to finish Jessica Rose Clark. Stephanie Edgar could possibly be a potential threat for the bantamweight division. She could very well be on that come up. She's got the hunger. 32, 33 years old, so I know she wants to move in there and get it. A little bit disappointed in Jessica Rose Clark. I don't know what's next for her. Just didn't really show that hunger or that IQ in there. You know what I mean? Like in the past, she's shown the ability to brawl and show that durability here, but she just really walked into a mistake. I mean, I already talked about this, so I won't really go in on it, but I was just really disappointed in that performance, man. Wow. Who else? Gloria DePaula, she snapped her 2-fight losing streak to Diana Delbita. Still a lot of questions for Gloria DePaula. I like her striking here and there, but got to work on that defense. Got to work on that defense a little bit more. Amir Khan to Kell Brook. Long overdue, man, like 7-8 years overdue. But Amir Khan, it's time to go, man. It really is time to go. Hopefully he is retiring because, in case y'all didn't know, Kell Brook stopped Amir Khan in 6 rounds And that's pretty much my prediction spot on what it was going to be. And even 7, 8 years ago, if the fight was going to happen, I thought it was going to go this way. My thoughts on the fight turned out to be a really good fight. These two really showed up for the fight. They really did come to box, put on a good performance. Neither one of them really looked like shot in this fight. Maybe Amir Khan did, of course. Like Amir Khan, maybe 7, 8 years ago, 2016 Khan, he might have disrupted or overwhelmed Kell Brook in a couple of rounds. But I still would have had Kell Brook winning. Kell Brook just has a very, very solid jab. He's physically strong, great timing, especially on this level. He just had good timing. Knew how to offset Amir Khan. That's something I thought he would have always did to Amir Khan back in the day, but I thought Amir Khan would have better success with body shots and maybe won a few rounds. But Kell Brook, he pretty much swept him all the way to 6. I just like the heart that Amir Khan showed and how he was throwing him left hooks on Kell Brook. But Kell Brook was coming back with some bombs, man. Left hooks, right hands, shotgun jab in the 6th round, just like really took out the foot from up under Amir Khan. And Kell Brook just went in for the kill, and the referee had to stop it. I mean, Amir Khan's really a danger to himself at this point, man. Very, very scary watching him get hit just by a jab and that leg coming out like a loose door hinge. You know what I mean? Like, ooh, man, he's got to be done now. He's got to be. He's got to be, man. But as for Kell Brook, I don't know where he's at right now. Of course, because this is Amir Khan. This was just a long overdue grudge match, but I don't know where he stands as a potential threat to welterweight now, because we're talking about he's already been crushed by Spence and Crawford. Maybe Keith Thurman. I don't know. He's had his better days as well. But shout out to both of these guys for going in there and giving us that fight. I'm glad they did finally get it over with. Turned out to be a good fight. Definitely going to go back and watch it tonight, actually. It was a good fight. But, yeah, man, good weekend of fights. Definitely a lot of stuff going on. Shout out to Britain Hart. She didn't get the belt in BKFC. But, she'll be back. She'll be back. It was a tough competitive fight. Very, very tough champion that she was in there with. So, yeah, I got to go back and watch a little bit more of that fight as well. I missed out on a lot going on. But, yeah, definitely good combat sports this past weekend. But let's get into this show, man. ONE FC Bad Blood. First of all, we had Be the Win versus Lee Hequin on this card, Mei Yamaguchi and Jin Radswan. Shout out to Be the Win. She's been one of those tough brawlers in there, tough warriors. She just couldn't get it done against Lee Hequin. Lynn just used her height, her striking ability, just her reach. She kept Be the Win on the outside and just really pieced her up in this fight. Be the Win had some success on the inside. She tried to go in for takedowns, but I think Lynn just overall, her distance management and striking was just too much for her. She just really put in that work. Good extended shots. I think Lynn might be a threat to this division. More and more, she just keeps on working. Good win over beating the Win, though. I really like that how she was landing those shots from the outside, just really keeping her from, getting on the inside, popping the jab off, putting those combinations together. Good back and forth action at times, but overall, Lynn, was just putting on a striking clinic in some moments of the fight. So shout out to Lynn. All right, so Mei Yamaguchi versus Jin Radswan. Oh, man, this is another one of those situations, right? Hands up, it's a robbery. Hands up, it's a robbery, man. But I don't know, man. Like, this is an ongoing thing that we'll talk about on this channel when it comes down to how fights are scored, who should be judging the fights. A few of y'all asked me about it on the live stream about this card. But I just wanted to go in a little bit on this episode here because Mei Yamaguchi, to me, I thought she did everything she needed to do except score a stoppage or submission, against Radswan. Because what I did, like I said, to make sure I could watch this fight as a whole and not judge it round by round just to break that habit, I watched the round, scrub through the break, go to round 2, scrub through the break, go to round 3. Just like, let's say if I'm at the gym, like before I was at the gym watching two guys just spar endlessly. You know what I mean? Like they just go on for one continuous round, or if they just get it really heated and they just keep going into it, I'm watching it, just watching it. And by the end, I can tell who kind of got the better of it, who had the better control, who could get under that person's skin and really get into their rhythm and just take that person out of their game, or who could just shut them down or nullify them, right? I'm just sitting there watching it as a whole. Like if I see two guys, out in the street fight. You know what I mean? We see like a street fight after a club event or something. You see two guys out there fighting. There's no breaks in between, so I'm just I'm watching it right then. You know what I mean? So then by the end, I can say, okay, this guy here, he got his butt handed to him. You know what I mean? So that's how I kind of had to watch this fight. Just sit back, scrub through those breaks, and then just chop it up and make it all one fight. And by the end of it, I felt Mei Yamaguchi, she controlled the fight. I thought she had the better. I thought she had the better ground control here. I thought she just had the better significant strikes landed. I thought she just overall had the better pacing. Shout out to both of these ladies because they really fought with high pace for round 1 to round 3. They both had great cardio. Very athletic. They could really push. But it was just Mei Yamaguchi, I think, doing everything at the right time. First half of the round, I'd say Roxanne was doing well with her stand-up. Nice inside leg kick, putting combinations together. But then Mei Yamaguchi just took over, ground game, pressing, keeping Roxanne on her back, going from half guard to side control, just really clinching even when they stand back up and just pressing her. Then going into the second round, Yamaguchi landed like 3 big right hands. And almost I thought was going to stop Roxanne when she buckled her with that third right hand. Then she went into maul. She went into maul mode. Just a lot of pressure in the second round. So Roxanne is landing these like inside leg kicks here and some combinations, but she's really getting pushed and she's really getting pressed. Even going into the third round, I think Yamaguchi was getting the fight she wanted by fighting in the phone booth. Just really mauling and landing, good shots to the face. Now Yamaguchi, she could go, she's the type of fighter like she would slide in there and there'd be a submission attempt over when Roxanne would try to go for it, but she would just slide right out. She was just that quick. Like even with the guillotine, I think it was the second round, like Roxanne would try to go in for that guillotine. She was trying to lock in a guillotine off back to the fence, but Yamaguchi just kept that pressure up, and using her strength, she was able to break out of that. There was a situation on the ground where she was almost put on her back and she just rolled right back up, got Roxanne to the fence again. So I just saw a lot of nice reversals and just a lot of consistent pressure from Yamaguchi in this fight. So I thought it was clear that she won the fight. I still have her winning the fight after watching it 2 times. But to me, I think it just comes down to the judges. They just have to make sure that they have judges that are competent at what combat sports is, what every field is. They have to. This is what I'm gonna say again. They have to have ex-fighters, ex-trainers, fight doctors, former Olympians from boxing, judo, wherever, BJJ, black belts coming through, that can score fights. What I mean? Maybe like 4 to 5 judges, something like that from different walks of combat sports to judge. That way, even some ex-fighters, they can have jobs again. You know what I mean? Get these people in there that can actually tell you what a punch is, or tell you what a reversal is, or what's a significant takedown. You know what I mean? Like that can score these fights fairly. That don't have anything invested. Of course, you have to make sure the trainers aren't tied to these fighters or anything, just so there's no bias show. So I think that's the best thing they can do, because some of these people they get in, they don't know. Like they think they're watching a movie or something. Like some of these judges, I think they go off the roar of the crowd. Like say the crowd roars from a distance because they see a flurry being thrown out and landed on the arms, right? But it's up to the judge to say, okay, the crowd's roaring, but none of those punches landed, right? So I think some judges do that, so we can't have judges that are going to be like that based off the crowd, taking their eyes off the fight, talking to somebody, checking their phone. Remember the Andrea Lee Lauren Murphy fight? I think they were over the side, conversing or something like that, missing out on that fight, and they messed up a person's opportunity, right? So I think, when it comes down to it, they just need to get real fighters, ex-fighters, people that are really in that game, and, just anybody from that walk of life that can score these fights properly. Because, like I said, every time they mess up on a card or you rob a fighter, you're messing up their opportunity in the game of, making it, right? And, that's really my thoughts on that. Like I said, I'll probably do a video on it one day. We can just talk a little bit more, another live stream, because it's never going to stop. There's always going to be another robbery. It'll probably be a couple more, probably another 5, 6 more by the end of 2022, right? And speaking of bad scoring. I mean, look at Roxanne Matafari versus Casey O'Neill. I'm still trying to figure out what 2 rounds did the one judge score for. Well, I already know because I looked at the scorecard, but what was he looking at? Let's put it that way. What was that judge looking at to give Roxanne Matafari those 2 rounds? I don't have the card in front of me right now, but I know he did because we talked about it in the live stream. What did he see? What did he see where Roxanne was winning? Like, I did make the argument, okay, the 3rd round could have went to Roxy. If you gave it to Roxy, I wouldn't have been as mad because she did have some success in there that could have been significant to you. But even then, I still gave Casey O'Neill the 3rd round. I had a 30-27. I thought that was pretty clear. Like, again, that's another situation where you see a fighter making improvements in Casey O'Neill and working hard round after round, breaking, which he breaks some significant strike numbers too for this fight. She doubled the numbers over Roxanne in just about every single round. So this fighter comes in doing all of this work, beating this fighter up. Casey O'Neill, of course, got a little bit of blood and a little smudge under the eye, got a little mouse here. Are you gonna take away from that just because she got some blood leaking there? Like, just because she leaked it a little bit? No, like, Casey O'Neill had some marks on her, but I still had a 30-27. I thought she did enough work in there, so that's another one of those situations where you got to get somebody that can't score blood. Like, this ain't a movie or something. Like, this ain't a slasher movie where somebody getting bloodied up or, getting stabbed and you say, oh, that person's already dead, right? It ain't that type of situation you can just write the script. You got to let it play out. You got to let it play out. You can't write the script and just write a person off. No, you can't do that. Casey O'Neill, in my opinion, she did enough work to get a 30-27, and again, I think it came down to maybe trying to make the storybook for Roxanne Matafari. Feel like Roxanne Matafari is her last fight, we just going to give it to her. No, that's dirty. That's just dirty. Like, if that person has 50 fights, to be in the game minute, they call it a day. If they lose, they lose. That's how it is, because you're going to be taken away from that person that's still on the come up. You're going to take something away from them mentally and emotionally, right? See, this person, hey, they done lost 20-something times, so they used to it. Just go ahead and be fair about it. That's how I see it. But yeah, man, bad judging, I don't think it's going to go anywhere anytime soon because, like I said, I even talked about on live stream. I ain't going to go into it now. Some judges are in the bag. I'm going to just leave it at that. But, so yeah, speaking of Casey O'Neill, let's talk about Casey O'Neill just a little bit here as far as her win. Let me give you some of my thoughts, especially after her post-fight interview with Ari Helwani. She talked about a few different things here. But first of all, I'll say, look, Casey O'Neill, love her or hate her, it was good for the division that she won. All right, it was good for the division that she won. Even y'all people, y'all leaving comments about her on my channel. Like, I'm not the biggest Casey O'Neill fan. Y'all know that. But I like her as a fighter. I got to respect her as a fighter and what she does. But for the people that leave comments that you don't like her, come on now. Like, this girl's undefeated. She wants to fight. She's new blood in the division. You got to give her credit. Like, whether you like her, like, that's why I always tell people, look, don't get so emotional about these fighters. Like, look at the good on what a young undefeated fighter is going to do for the division, right? She's nowhere near the title. She's nowhere near the title shot right now, but she's bringing in something to the division that we need. New blood, because some of y'all before were saying y'all don't like Roxanne Matafari, but now that she's fighting Casey O'Neill, you got to pick the lesser of two evils, right? So now you want Roxy to win. But no, that ain't good for the division. Like, I'm not the biggest Roxy fan either, I mean, I don't want to see her hurt. I'm glad she's retiring. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. But it's time for her to go. I want to see what Casey O'Neill can do. Like, I'm more of a fan of the fight as a whole here. I can't get caught up emotionally in one fighter here, because if you do that, you're just going to be like, okay, I'm going to want this fighter to make it just because I think it look good. You know what I mean? Like, some people break the chain of loving the fight because they start simping over one fighter. They're just so emotionally invested in one fighter that they don't understand that y'all seeing it that way, it kind of messes up the hope for a good division, right? If that makes sense. Does that make sense? I mean, I want to see this division thrive. Some of my favorite fighters in this game right now, when they're starting to fall off, I got to admit it, man. Like, it's time for them to go. It's time for them to go, because if you're not fighting for the title, or you're like ducking the champion, I can't condone that. I can't co-sign that, especially if it's going to mess up the fight game. because I love the fight game as a whole. So if Casey O'Neill is bringing new blood and she likes to fight, she's winning. You know, she's 24 years old and she's still improving. She's still growing. I need that. I can't have a 50-year, I can't have a 50-fight veteran in there that doesn't want to fight for the title, that's still beating these other fighters up. And then, you already hurt yourself. It's time for you to go, right? So I hope people can see it that way, that her win was a must for the division. Just like hopefully in a few weeks when Manon can beat Jessica Ai, they'll see the same thing with Manon. Like, Manon is good for the division. Casey's good for the division. Aaron's good for the division. All of them are good for the division right now because they're new blood. But with that being said now, like I already said, there's a difference between Manon and Casey. But when it comes down to this part that I want to discuss real quick, with that being said about them being new blood, they still have to know their place. And I hope that Casey O'Neill is getting that reality check like Macy Barber is, like I did in my recent video here. I think Casey O'Neill is starting to get that reality check, actually, because after this win, she started talking about feeling that pressure, even after seeing like Israel Adesanya making moves, doing media, boom, 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 and then you got to fight, and now she's starting to feel it a little bit too, being on such a big card. And then how she had to address the crowd, F you and this and that. She's starting to feel it. She's starting to feel it a little bit. That's why in this interview, she said that, she want to start taking more breaks in between, like longer breaks in between fights. She ain't even number 5 yet. Number 3, and she already talking about breaks. So I think she's starting to feel it in a way, which is good and bad, because if she lets the crowd get to her, she's going to start fighting emotionally, and she's going to start, freezing up maybe. But the good thing is maybe she's seeing it in a technical manner where she was like, I got to space it out now because the competition is going to get harder, and I got to improve in camp, And I mean, like, she did show some good improvement from her last fight to this fight with her striking, but that still is Roxanne. This Roxanne was like right there to be hit. So it's still a little questionable there. So I hope she's just seeing, that she's just seeing that she needs a lot of work and that she's not trying to backtrack. That's why when it came down to it, well, first off, she said this too. She said every time she posts something, even on like IG, people keep saying something in the comment section like Valentino will smash you. Valentino going to smash you. Well, if you keep the champion's name out of your mouth, that won't happen. You know what I mean? That's not going to happen, because I see a lot of people on IG, other fighters on IG, that just keep working and working and working, getting their wins and moving up the ladder, Manon and them, fighters like that. I got to bring her up again. They're over here working, Jazzy Vicious, she's over here working. She's in the flyweight division. They ain't talking about the champion right now. Of course, they want to get there, but they ain't talking about it. But nobody in the comment section is saying that to them, like Valentina's going to kill you. Nobody's trolling them. Why are they trolling Casey? Because you mentioned the champion. You know what I mean? That's what I'm just saying. Like, if you just stay at your own pace and stay in your own lane, that ain't going to happen. I mean, it must make you feel some type of way because you had to address it on Ariel Hawani. You had to say, oh, yeah, people have been bugging me or saying, oh, you ain't going to beat Valentina, Valentina's going to crush you or kill you, you know what I mean? And now she's having to say that, I never said I was ready. Now she said, I never said I was ready, but she was talking about keeping the belt warm for her, and she'll get there one day. But, you shouldn't even mention that yet. That's why I say you just got to keep working and call out people around you and stay in that realm. Because now these emotional fans, like I said, the fans that are emotionally invested in Valentina Shevchenko, they're going to come after you, right? So that's why you just have to stay in your lane and get your work in and do what you do. Because now she had to go on record and say, I know I'm not ready. I probably won't be fighting Valentina until I'm like 27, 28. So she's 24 now, right? So that's what? Another 3 or 4 years, right? So now she had to put a time stamp on it to make people kind of back off. And if she knew that was what her game plan was in the beginning, just keep doing that. Just keep doing you, because when it's all said and done, you're what? Number 12. You're still like another 10, 11 spaces away from the champion. And we all know you're not ready anyway, so don't even mention it. I mean, that's just something obvious, where you have to put in the work to improve as a fighter to even be recognized as a threat to Valentina, right? It's a long-term goal, but it's not even like a logical goal right now. Right, it's not even a reasonable goal right now, thinking you could beat Valentina Shevchenko or even put your name in that category yet. Yeah, you're in the same division, but the way Valentina fights, you're just another number. You're just another number right now. until you can prove us wrong, right? So yeah, man. Yeah, that's just something I said. She got to face up to reality at this point and just say, let me do me 3-4 years. If that's what she wants to do, fine. But, she kind of hinted around too. I don't know if this is true, but, she just said it's Taylor Santos' turn. You know what I mean? She's like, let Taylor Santos fight her next. Because maybe she knows something. I'm hoping she knows something. I'm hoping she's not just thinking that Taylor's next. I'm hoping she knows that maybe Taylor is already signed and just didn't say nothing yet, right? But we'll see. All right, so next topic, Jessica Andrade. So, yeah, this ain't about Lemos versus Andrade, but I just kind of want to come through here and give y'all my thoughts on, Jessica Andrade and her recent moves outside of the octagon. Definitely got to talk about it because it's still a fighter here, and some people asked me about it. They wanted to know my thoughts, but as y'all know, Jessica Andrade, she drops heavy blows in the octagon, but she's been hitting people with even heavier blows outside of the octagon. I mean, I've already seen the much more raw photos, a few weeks back, a few months back. Everybody started posting. People sent me some links. I was like, oh, what you doing? Sending me links like this. But recently, Andrade, once again, she dropped another photo like a couple weeks ago on her Twitter and IG. And, it just kind of had a lot of people talking like, uh-oh, Jessica Andrade's in the see-throughs. And, she's kind of having that softer, feminine touch again. It just kind of made people like question like what's going on here. Of course, we already know she has OnlyFans, but it just kind of seemed like this picture was a little bit more in your face, like she's really trying to, advertise now this new route, right? Like she's really trying to advertise this new route, like this is where I'm at on OnlyFans, right? So it kind of makes people ask, like, is Andrade in a position where she's doing this for money, or does she really love doing it? Like, is it for the love of it or is it for the love of money right now? Like, is she really hard up for money? Because it just seems like fighter pay is a big thing that a lot of fighters, are having trouble with right now. A lot of people are addressing it. Everybody from Joanna, which I'm going to talk about in this video. Jake Paul, he's been going on record. He's not even in the UFC, but he already talking about what Dana White's paying his fighters, right? Everybody from the lower level, like Sarah Alpar, discussed the money before, Francis Ngannou, the champion, right? So it kind of makes you ask that question, like, is Jessica Andrade doing this because the UFC is not paying her right? Are they not giving her max amount of dollar? She's a good fighter. She's one of the pound for pound best when it comes to women. She's delivering. That's why I always tell people, like, it's important, to just get the win sometimes. Like, people think it's all about getting finishes, but if you're still in a position where you have to get money outside of the UFC, you're not comfortable, even if you are finishing people, that still says something about the UFC. Like, they're still not basing it off your wins, right? They're still not giving you what you deserve, right? But for Jessica Andrade, if she is doing OnlyFans, like I said, which, she is, Jessica Andrade is doing OnlyFans. I don't really have a issue with that. No, like, a lot of women do it, as long as I think they're doing it for the love of it, that's fine. But if she has to do it for the money too. That's her as well. But I just hate to have to see her go that route whenever she's worked so hard in the gym and, she trains hard. She'll take on anybody. She tries her best to stay active. And the UFC is still not compensating her for that. So she has to make up for it by, paying for this higher lifestyle by taking her clothes off, right? Especially, like, deep down, if she could say, if I didn't have to do this, I wouldn't. Because I know, like, back in the day, like, there's some women on the, around the way I knew, like, some women that strip. Back in the day, that was a popular thing. OnlyFans is more like the new form of stripping because women can do it from the privacy of their own home. But back in the day, I knew some women, hard up for money. They'd say they had to go strip. But you really talk to them, they would say, if I could get my money somewhere else and make this much money anywhere else where I didn't have to take my clothes off, they'd be like, I wouldn't strip, Again, that's just some women, but some, they fall in love with it. They fall in love with the attention and everything, that comes with it. But for Andrade, like I said, if it's because she's hard up for money, I hate to see it go that way. And I'm going to be like, the UFC really needs to start taking care of their fighters more so the women don't have to go this route if they don't really want to, But Andrade, I would have thought that there have been other ways, like, she could get, get that money, out, without having to go to OnlyFans. I was thinking, like, there could have been ways that she could have made more money outside of the UFC, like pushing her brand and getting outside endorsements because, she's such a, exciting fighter. She gets more finishes than Joanna, but look, Joanna's out here pushing her brand. She's getting it to the best of her ability. I mean, she's a millionaire outside of the UFC. She's making more money outside of the UFC, right? And we call her the decision queen, right? So you would think somebody like Andrade might could do some same thing over in Brazil or even here, right? Because she's over here finishing people. She's a highlight reel fighter. But like I said, these high-ranked fighters and champions, they pull in all that money from outside endorsements and their brand, and that's what keeps them secure. They don't have to go that OnlyFans route. And again, I'm just kind of delving into this, like just kind of wondering if Andrade is just doing this strictly for money, because I hate to see these elite fighters not get the money they deserve and then feel they have to resort to quick money like this. Because again, like champions like Val, Rose, Joanna, getting money and making money outside of the UFC without having to go to OnlyFans route. It just kind of makes me wonder, is her setup the same? Or is it just that her money goes back home or whatever? Like maybe she's just not as business savvy. But like I said, it's too, maybe it's just she enjoys it. That's why I don't knock it. Like I'm just kind of wondering, like the money part and how the UFC is taking care of their fighters. That's what the questions I'm really asking here, because if it's just like she wants to do it because of the freedom to do it, fine, do it. Just do it. Because in a way, it kind of beats those rough training camps, getting your butt kicked in, day in, day out, especially if they're not paying you the money that you're making off of this, right? Beats those rough camps, right? So I guess at this point, Andrade is coming towards the end of her career as well. I mean, she just hit, 30? She has the most fights in the UFC, as far as a WMMA fighter. So, she probably just wants to get as much money as she can and make these type of moves, right? Maybe she just doesn't have the business mind like Val or even Joanna. Because even Joanna, she really had to maximize her worth by getting her money outside of the UFC. She didn't really think of the route of OnlyFans, but, she more so went the route of building the brand again. And, just to say, look, this is what I do. And, I really want to get every bit of money I can, because I'm not going to be fighting forever, right? So to each their own. That's what it is. Like I said, I just kind of wonder every day, like, about some of these fighters, like, what are they really getting, like, that makes them have to do that? But for Andrade, if she's doing it for the love of it, fine. It's making her money, but I just don't want to see these fighters go that route when the money is making them. Like, you make the money, don't let the money make you. That's how I see it when it comes down to it. But yeah, speaking of Joanna, Joanna, she recently spoke on Fighter Pay as well. Let me go ahead and pull up this interview here, because, she was just talking about some different things that, I just kind of want to address in this episode. She talked about missing out on some big paydays in her career and possibly not getting the money she deserves, which, it could go either way with her, because there's still a difference between superstar and champion, right? But let me pull up this interview with MMAnews.com. This is what she said here about getting money in the beginning and knowing your worth. She said, you got to get paid as much as you can. You got to get paid as much as you can from this place, this time, in this situation. I feel like every time and everything I do in my life, I'm trying to get as much as I can. But I feel like I missed some things in my fighting career, and I could get even more. Like money-wise, money fights, fight money. Maybe I can't complain, but I feel like I should get more. Or should have gotten more. Or she still feel like she should get more. Dang. What else did she say? But let me pull this up. She said, because when you fight for nothing, when you fight for no money, when they give you these big kinds of money and pay-per-view points, you're so happy and you feel like, wow, I'm so lucky, but there's so much more room to negotiate. But it's all about the right people. Okay, so I guess she means that's about the right people that can get you, your maximum amount of money that you can get as a champion, right? So going back to the beginning where she says, you got to get the money. It's about trying to get everything that you can from the sport. I agree with that. It is about getting as much as you can, because the fight game is not a career, it's an opportunity. Well, it can kind of be seen as that little short-term career, if that makes sense. But I really don't see it as a career anymore. The more I think about it, I think of it as just an opportunity. It's just that opportunity that you have to get as much as you can at that moment, because you never know when it's over. You really never know when it's over. Like, the next day you could, snap a leg, break a bone, and that could be a career-ending injury. Same thing happens for some football players, but, football players, they get paid a lot, all right? So they can sit back off a couple of checks if they have a career-ending injury, but it's different for a fighter. So every moment, a fighter, you want to try to get everything you can out of the game, right? Because you never know when it's over, and other things she talked about, missing out on some money fights. I don't know, maybe like to a certain extent, maybe she missed out on some money, but as far as like big money fights, I don't know because, well, first off, I'll say that I could see her possibly missing out on some money, like missing out on some negotiations. Because if y'all remember, like Joanna, when she won the belt, she was an active champion. She just wanted to keep fighting, and she was always ready to fight. She was going in there defending her title. That's what it was all about for her. So maybe she kind of let her actions get ahead of her thinking, where she could sit back and say, maybe I need to negotiate for each title defense I get. You know what I mean? So maybe there was time where she didn't really think about there was room for negotiation. She just want to get in there and fight. When you're young and you win that belt, you want to go in there and prove you're the best, right? But then again, and again, like I said, yeah, she was the dominant champion. Her being a dominant champion, you do want to say, okay, this is a argument I can stand on to get more money, right? But it's still WMMA. Like, as good as these fighters are, as skilled as they are, I still understand that it's a WMMA, and if it's not bringing in a lot of fans and a lot of fans, and if it's not bringing in a lot of fans, putting a lot of butts in seats, it's going to be hard to say you're worth this X amount of dollars, right? It's going to be hard to say you get this Conor McGregor money if you're not pulling it in the same numbers, right? So if you're new to the negotiation and you think you just have a belt, then you can say, okay, I deserve this, I deserve that. It's going to seem out of line, right? Because if you're not Conor McGregor or even Ronda Rousey, even though you have a belt and you're thinking this is your worth, they got to show you the numbers. They got to show you the numbers so you can get a better understanding. And that's where you'll say, okay, well, all right, this is not what I'm adding up to. But in Joanna's case, it's still like she feels like she missed out on this money. But to me, the best way to look at it is, okay, look, pay-per-view numbers, that's going to be done by your stars. It's not necessarily done by your dominant champions, right? That's something you have to look at. Pay-per-views is big pay-per-view numbers are done by stars. That's mainly what it is. They can hold a belt or they can not hold a belt. If it's just somebody that everybody wants to see, that's where the money comes from. Being a dominant champion doesn't necessarily going to make money, right? You could be fighting on UFC fight night cards for all they care. Because if nobody's coming to see you, then you're not making a lot of money, right? Best way to look at it again, say her and Ronda Rousey were around the same era, right? So compare the two. You say, okay, Ronda Rousey, she's a star, so she can negotiate. She's dominant, but she's got that it factor. She's got that star factor. People like seeing her. She's going in there and finishing. Yeah, granted, Joanna's a good fighter, has a lot of fans, and she may have more skills than Ronda, but Ronda, she had that star power, that guaranteed big money. So every time people come to see her, she could say, okay, each fight, my money goes up. Each fight, my money goes up because I'm bringing in fans. Whereas Joanna, yeah, she's defended her belt 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, but are people really coming out to see her? Like, is she main event worthy? Like, is she finishing people? You know what I mean? So you have to look at it as that. So I don't really think that Joanna really missed out on any big paydays because it came down to who she was fighting as well. Like, even like with Rose, that was a big fight, but it still didn't have the same ring like Ronda versus Holly at the time. Ronda Rousey versus Holly Holm was still like a major fight. Joanna versus Rose, that was probably her biggest, fight where, it could have definitely brought her in more money. But like the other fights, like, Letourneau, Pena, those are just title defenses for her. Each time you could go up maybe a little bit more, but I wouldn't expect her to say, okay, these are big money fights. Well, I wouldn't expect the UFC to say, oh, these are big money fights. We got to give her the same thing we give Ronda, right? So in no way, I don't really think she missed out on that much money, especially what the UFC's paying these fighters now. Maybe she did, like I said, but because I don't see, I'm not seeing paperwork or contracts, but I just think that's what it is. Like, Ronda's the star. Joanna is a dominant champion. Surprisingly, some people just don't come to see her type of style. Like I said, I love it. I love to see her go the distance and still beat people up, but there's something about the factor and the way Ronda's finishing people that, people are more attracted to, right? So that's why her money can go up, and it'll be harder for Joanna to get those negotiations, right? Or the same thing. But yeah, as for present day Joanna, I definitely don't think that she can get any more at this point. I mean, maybe before is what she's really talking about, but as of now, I don't think that she'll maximize her dollar in the UFC anymore. She can still get the same thing. It probably won't go down, but I don't think she can go to the point and say, okay, I need Conor money or Ronda money, right? You can't get that anymore. For number one, because, she hasn't been champion in 5 years. She's unranked as of now. She's been inactive almost 2.5 years, and she has more losses than wins as of lately, right? So I think she can get only what she can get from the UFC now. And it shouldn't matter anyway, because she's made more money outside of the UFC. Even Dana White's addressed that, right? So I think Joanna's just in a good position right now. I think maybe she just wants to come back one more time for legacy, but still she wants that money. She still wants that money, but she just really has to know her worth when it comes to fighting, because outside of the octagon, yeah, she's worth a lot. Got a book, go on women's she can be front cover for women's magazines all day long. She can call the shots there. But when it comes to Dana White and his money with the UFC, you're only going to get what he feels you're worth, and that's it, right? But when it comes down to it, again, Dana White, well, not Dana White, fans, the hardcore fans of the UFC, they still don't get behind WMMA as a whole. Like, yeah, they'll have their breakout stars like a Ronda or a Holly or a Rose, but these other fighters, they have to just understand, like, yeah, you can try your best to get as much money as you can, but when it comes to WMMA, it's still a sport that I think even the men, they're still trying to get accustomed to, unfortunately. I mean, they put in just as much work as the men, but that's just what it is right now. So, yeah, that's just my thoughts on that. I think Joanna, yeah, she probably could have got more money. I think a lot of fighters could have got more money in the UFC. But when it comes down to it, she was just never that star like Ronda Rousey. Now, I used to say this in boxing, too. Like, talk to some old heads in boxing. Like, it also comes down to being an American. UFC is an American organization, and if they can't spell your last name, they're not going to support you. Not being, I know it sounds funny, but that's the truth. That's why back in 2005, the heavyweight division in boxing went on such a drought. Like, Vladimir Klitschko, good fighter, good technician, but dominant champion, but he couldn't be the breakout star like Muhammad Ali or Evander Holyfield because, he wasn't from here. And like I said, can't spell his last name. That's what it is, Klitschko. A lot of people can't spell Vladimir Klitschko. Americans want something they're familiar with. Ronda Rousey is a little bit easier than Joanna Jędrzejczyk, right? Might sound it might sound harsh, but that's the truth. That's very much the truth. Still can't spell Joanna's name to this day. Jędrzejczyk. I'm still trying to get it right by saying, with my pronunciation on it. But yeah, man, that's my thoughts on that situation with Joanna. But let's talk Chris Cyborg versus Cat Zingano in this episode as well. I did some videos, already discussing this fight, but the drama continues on with these two. Chris Cyborg, Cat Zingano still are not set in stone to fight. It's been talked about that it could be coming late this summer, but it just seems like, Cat Zingano, she's kind of prolonging the fight a little bit. According to Scott Coker, her manager is actually kind of prolonging it, kind of pushing it back. That's why the Pam Bam fight is taking place in March now, because as y'all know, Cat signed on to take Pam Bam because she wanted one more fight. She said this on her Twitter, that she wanted one more fight. And Scott Coker said in the recent interview a few days ago that her manager reached out and said, hey, we want one more fight before we get to Chris Cyborg, right? So it's going to be Pam Bam. But also, it's been on, an ongoing thing where Cat Zingano has used other excuses as well. She just never came straight out and said, I'm not ready, which I think would have been a wise decision just to say, let's build this thing up. She's also went to the extent of saying Chris Cyborg has refused the drug test. Well, Chris Cyborg, she replied back and said she never refused anything. She was willing to fight. She still wants to fight her, so why would she go to this extent of trying to, tarnish her resume, in the sport? So Chris Cyborg came back. She came back with a reply. She said, hey, whenever USADA, before USADA, you were undefeated, but, all of a sudden, whenever USADA started testing fighters in the UFC, you started losing. In the past 5 years, you've been losing, so she kind of came back with her own thing, just saying, putting that out there. Like I said, you never know what's going on behind closed doors with these fighters. But anyways, Kat has a fight with Pam coming up. Chris Cyborg is looking to get back in there sometime in April. She only has 2 more fights on her contract. She says she doesn't really know who it's going to be. She's not really doing the choosing here. It might be Arlene Blencowe in a rematch, and then Kat Zingano to finish out her contract, right? So that's what it's looking like for her. Slim pickings, like I said in the previous video. But when it comes down to it, I don't know, man. Like, is this really a fight that we're asking for? Is it really a fight that we need? Well, no, it's not for me. Like I said, Chris versus Kat, it's not really like this big epic fight. Maybe if it was like back in the UFC and, Kat like came through at 145, destroyed Megan Anderson and, got a chance to fight Felicia Spencer and like beat Felicia Spencer, and Chris Cyborg was still in the UFC. Maybe that would have been a little bit more interesting. But at this point, I'm kind of like, it's just a fight. Now, I can understand why Chris wants it, because this is the biggest fight she can have in Bellator. Kat Zingano brings in a bigger stock than any of these other fighters can, like Arlene or Sinead Kavanaugh or, even Pam. Kat's like the biggest name, former UFC fighter. So Chris wants to maximize her that dollar as best as she can. She really wants to get that money. And by doing that, she wants to take on Kat. And the thing is, Kat came over to the UFC and called her out. So Chris saw this as an opportunity to say, okay, yeah, let's do it. But now all of a sudden it's like pumping the brakes here. Kat Zingano wants to pump the brakes and get in another fight, which is what I said she needed to do. But the thing is, it just seems like the path has kind of been slowed down. The tension here, but as far as like Kat's inactivity, it doesn't really make me want to see the fight like in a technical manner. Like there's really no potential threat there I see Kat giving Chris Cyborg at this point in her career, right? That's why I just kind of see it as like more so money than it is legacy for Chris Cyborg. Now for Kat, it's legacy and money. Like it's legacy if she can beat her. Like if she comes there, on her best game, it'll definitely do something for her legacy more so. But it won't really do much for Chris's legacy because she's faced better opponents, right? Kat Zingano has a win over Amanda Nunes, and Amanda Nunes defeated Chris Cyborg, but still like styles make fights, and I just think that Kat Zingano is more in need of this type of name. She is more in need of this type of name. That's why I say it's more so legacy for her. But I guess at this point too, people ask me like, will it happen? I think it will. I think the fight will happen at this point, but it's just, I think the management of Kat Zingano is trying to prolong it a little bit to get as much money as they can. And I did mention this a while back, I think when I did the Liv Parker post-fight analysis. I said, okay, Kat Zingano is going to come over here and want to fight Chris, but she's going to try to get as many fights as she can, to just get as much money as she can. She will get as many little fights as she can to get as much money as she can before she takes that last fight. Because that Chris Cyborg fight, let's be real, it could be a career-ending fight for her. Kat's already been through a lot through her career, gone on record about the CTE, the brain damage after the Amanda Nunes fight. So I think we can all safely say that this fight, it could very well be that career-ending fight for her. So she probably wants to take that fight as an end game, but in between that time, you're going to get in some soft touches, and I think that's what your management should do for you. They want to try to get you as much money as you can without taking a lot of punishment. I've already heard some boxing management tell me that before, straight up. They was like, hey, I'm trying to look out for this fighter. We're trying to get as much money as we can. I try to get my fighters as much money as they can, without getting hurt. And then we try to get into that big fight, just in case anything happens, right? So that's what they're trying to do for her, and that's what Scott Coker said at the post-fight. They want to get in one more fight before they take on Chris. So it probably will happen sometime this summer. Chris fights in April. It'll be a quick turnaround, same turnaround. They could fight in July or August, right? But again, it's not really like a big fight I'm looking forward to. I hope they can just get it out the way and, kind of move on from here, because both of these ladies are already almost pushing 40. So if they're going to do it now, let's do it, right? And with Chris only having 2 more fights on her career or her Bellator contract, it'll probably be Arlene Blencowe in April, maybe, Arlene Blencowe rematch. And then Kat might be the last one to finish it off. And will she sign, do you think, again? Will you think she'll sign another contract with Bellator? And do you think she'll keep fighting? I don't know, man. Like, to me, I don't really think there is a point for it for Chris Cyborg. I think she's just already proven to be the dominant champion unless she moves on from here. Or like I said, unless they build up Kayla Harrison off of 2 or 3 fights. Let Kayla Harrison get 2 or 3 fights, and maybe they could make that fight happen. But that's still kind of far off, too, because Kayla's not even on the Chris Cyborg level. So that would be a long wait. So for me, I really don't see any more challenges for Chris. I mean, if she just wants to do it for the love of it, fine. But it's like you really have to reach to get her an opponent right now, right? So yeah, that's what's up right now, though. Taz Ngannou is choosing to take on Pam Bam, and you never know. Like I said, Pam Bam, I'm kind of leaning towards Pam Bam in this fight, not just because I'm a fan, but I think she definitely has a style and the activity right now that could offset Kat, and it all depends on if Kat wants to get past her to get to Chris. Yep. All right. So yeah, let me know what y'all think in the comment section. But last topic for this episode. Juliana Pena, she weighs in on Amanda Nunes and her choice to leave American Top Team, leaving ATT. She already heard different things going around about Amanda Nunes leaving the gym, and it could possibly be because of drama at ATT. And Juliana Pena, in this recent interview here, she kind of spoke on it. She gave her thoughts on the situation, and I have to say that I do agree with Amanda Nunes. Well, I agree with Juliana Pena is her perspective right here. Let me just pull up this interview here and we'll kind of read through it together here. Yeah, I agree with her perspective on it to a certain extent, because it's kind of been going around word about ATT, definitely have some good fighters and good trainers there, but there's just been a lot of like negative energy, towards the gym, a lot of drama going on within the gym, and people just don't understand that can definitely offset a champion like Amanda Nunes, because for one, the drama might not involve you directly, but it can involve the people that you work with and the people that work with this person that works with somebody that has drama, right? So it's like it's just going to branch on down. It's just going to just trickle on down. It has an effect. It's a domino effect, especially if, this person's cool with this person, that person's cool with that person, but they're part of that drama. They don't want to get involved. It'll kind of throw these fighters off in there, and you don't really need that. As a champion like Amanda Nunes, you really don't need that. So with that being said, now, I'm not saying that's a good, excuse for why Amanda Nunes lost, but I definitely think that's perfect timing and a good reason now for her to get out, and maybe she was like, okay, I got some other things going on, this other injury I've talked about, and I've got this going on in this gym, and I'm not getting the attention that I need. Might be time to make this call now. What better time to do it, right? So I think just the stars aligned there, and she just wanted to do it right then, because that way she didn't have to make no other excuses. She could just say, hey, this is why I'm leaving, because I need to focus on me. There's just too much going on in here right now, right? And I think Juliana Pena, she's, I think she's got ears out there in the street, and people are talking to her. And yeah, I mean, everybody, been hearing about it. I've been hearing about things myself. So it's like, I think she just had to do what she had to do to look out for her. That's what a champion does, right? Self-preservation. But this is what Juliana Pena had to say as far as, her leaving, just talking about all that drama going on. She said, I absolutely do believe that. It's probably because she's felt this way for a long time. She's at a one-stop shop at America Top Team, a McDonald's, cookie cutter type gym when they're just throwing these guys in and out and in and out, and everyone trains with everyone. You got Jorge Masvidal, used to be friends with Kobe Covington, used to be friends with Dustin Poirier. Now they all hate each other, but they still got to train in the same gym. It's awkward. Do I trust these people? Do they have my best interests? Are they telling people about me? Are they watching what I'm doing like a hawk? And is this information going to get leaked out? So that is the type of energy, even like fans like me, analysts like me, other fans, other MMA outlets, they're seeing from the outside, So if we're seeing this from the outside, the fighters, they're getting front seat, they're seeing that action, front row, they're seeing it front row. And somebody like Juliana Pena ain't even in the gym, but she sees it. She sees that. We've talked about this. I've talked about this on my channel, like the drama that goes on there. I mean, it's always something. Jorge and Kobe, Kobe and Joanna, which I talked about, a couple years back. I think I did a video on that. She was having beef with Kobe Covington. Then you got Maria Agapova and Marina Moreau, right? You got some things going on between them, like maybe not directly with them, because I know she just kind of aired her out. But Agapova had some things going on, with some fellow fighters there, right? Not everybody was named, but she had some drama going on there. So imagine having to walk into that where somebody's always telling you, oh, did you hear about so-and-so, or so-and-so is not showing up today. But I was supposed to grapple with that person. I was supposed to roll with that person, but they're not going to be here now. What? Or I'm supposed to spar with this person, but they're not showing up because they don't want to work with this person. Or, it's kind of like a divided camp within the gym. Like, people like to work with Jorge, or if you like to work with Jorge, well, but you still friends with Kobe, well, you can't be over here. You know what I mean? It's probably that type of thing going on. So it makes a lot of things awkward. It definitely makes a lot of things awkward. And somebody that is a double champion and wants to get right for this rematch, and wants to, make sure she's on her game, she doesn't really need to be around that right now. Like I said, this is all just speculation because, even what she's saying, she's the kind of, even what Pena's thinking is kind of like the same way I'm thinking and like other people are thinking, right? So I think that it's wise for her to get out of there. You don't want to be around that, because with all that going on, you have to wonder, like, are they really trying to push me now? Like, I know we had a good thing going in the beginning, but it just seems like everything else is just so drama based now, right? We got so much going on. Are they still looking after my best interest? I don't know. Like, maybe Amanda Nunes knows that some people are. That's why she just wants to separate herself in another gym. She wants to take herself into another space, right? Because she's still working with Mike Brown, still working with her wrestling coach and so on, right? She just wants to get out of that element, which is good. And another reason, like, why she might want to get out of the element, like Pena said, is because of Kayla Harrison. You never know. Like she said, there's a whole lot of paranoia. There's a lot of people making sure they have your best interest. So I feel like I don't exactly know what happened, but I feel like that's definitely some part of it why she feel like she needs to leave, especially when them saying Kayla Harrison's the team captain. Whoa, so Kayla Harrison's team captain over there now? How would you feel about that? But now Kayla Harrison's my training partner, but now Kayla Harrison wants to fight me for a mega $1 million fight. It's like, who's really your friend here? You can't trust anyone in the gym. I anticipate if she said this was a long time coming, I believe that, I really do. So yeah, she is kind of, with her on that, like, this probably was a long time coming. She just wanted to find the right out, and she got that right out to get out. Because even with the Kayla Harrison situation, maybe she was just playing it cool, like, okay, she's over here, but eventually I'm going to get out of here because this girl's probably trying to study me to try to beat me one day, right? And that's one thing I always said, like, why were people always trying to build this fight up, but these two are hugged up like they're cool, like they're training partners? They're not even in the same organization. They're out of the same weight class, right? But they're already trying to talk this thing up like she's out for Amanda Nunes. So how could you really trust somebody like that, right? It's like that old saying, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. Could be that type of situation. So you really wouldn't want to be around that. And with her being named as a team captain, it's like, what are they out to do here? So Amanda does have to think about herself in this situation. Like, does she really know if Kayla's looking out for her best intention? Like I said, I don't know, but that's just something to look at there. I mean, let me know, guys, what y'all think in the comment section. I mean, final thoughts. So I just think it is right for Amanda Nunes to kind of do her. Self-preservation is a big thing. You can't help everybody, especially at this point in your career. And I just think that ATT, is kind of becoming like some of these other gyms. Like I said, I don't know them personally, but maybe just some of the fighters around them, the way they're just coming in and kind of putting the gym on the map for the wrong things. Like it's just bringing in too many fighters and not enough champions, if that makes sense. Not enough fighters that just want to go in there, get the work in, and be out. Just seems like they got too much going on, too many egos. Too many egos up in there. As I said, especially like when you have a fight like Jorge and Kobe coming up, these two are in the same gym. I was like, oh man, it's gonna be straight up ignorant. Be straight up ignorant because they're about to let it all out. Gonna make for a good fight, but you got to think about it though. Like you're gonna get some good grudge matches out here, like Moreau and Agapova, Jorge and Kobe. But in the end, that type of atmosphere isn't good for all fighters. You got to separate yourself because you won't be able to push yourself to be the best if you have to worry about this person being here and this person starting trash or this person talking about you, right? If that's what you're surrounded by. So, yeah, man, that's my final thoughts on that. But, yeah, man, we got some good fights coming up over the next few weeks, over the next few months. Definitely a lot of strawweight fights I want to talk about as well. Definitely got a lot of good flyweight fights coming up as well. A couple more weekends. I'm doing this now the weekend of the 26th. So next weekend will be the weekend of March 5th. So those are the big fights. I'll talk about these fights on the next episode. I talked about a live stream, but, we're going to break them down on this next episode. Everyone, Gapova, Moreau, of course, Marina Rodriguez, Joanna. We're going to talk about it. But, yeah, guys, let me know in the comment section what y'all think on these topics here. And like always, make sure y'all subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, all of that, tuned in. That's why I keep posting these episodes. But, if you don't go to YouTube, you can always go to these platforms to hear the show. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Let's get to that. We're on that road to get to 1,000, trying to get to 1,000, so definitely, share to MMA fans, you and your friends, MMA fans, the WMMA fans. Share the channel, keep it growing, and I'll keep doing these, guys. But like always, Combo Breaker 99, I am out. Subscribe. Peace.